It was a bittersweet weekend for the Atlanta Braves as they get a huge sweep over the defending National League champs in the Arizona Diamondbacks, but they lose Spencer Strider for who knows how long, but it looks like it could be a while at this point. We'll talk about both of those things. Also, it is a Minors Monday. We'll touch on everything happening at the minor league level on this Monday episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out the podcast on social media at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. Always enjoy hearing from you. And make sure you hit that thumbs up button as well to help support the show and let others find us here at Locked On Braves as we approach 10,000 subscribers. We are almost there, and I appreciate all your support in helping me get there. Make sure if you are listening on the audio version, leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And again, I appreciate all the support that you give me on Locked On Braves. Got a lot of you that let me know that you are everydayers down in the comment section. Please continue to do that. Really do appreciate it, and let us know who all is a part of this huge Locked On Braves community that we have. See, Kyle Knapp said, best Locked On host in the business. I appreciate that as well. Others on here in the comments section. JL Martin says, I love the pod. Great Braves talk as always. Jeffrey Humphreys, thanks, Jake, as always. Another cool episode. And so many more on here with some great comments. So thank you for leaving those. Also had some people shout me out while I was at the game on Saturday. Thank you so much for that as well. I appreciate it. Even had one listener who unknowingly took a selfie with me in the background. So that was pretty cool as well. So thanks so much for doing that. I see E. Fuentes let me know, hey, Mastriani, every day are from Puerto Rico. So that's cool. We got Locked On Braves supporters all over the globe. So thank you so much for that. On today's podcast, we are going to get into the Spencer Strider news. We're going to spend a good deal of our time talking about that, the ramifications, the fallout from all that, as it is unfortunately one of the bigger news, not just in Braves country, I think, but you're hearing a lot nationally about why are all these pitching injuries happening. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get into the positive from the weekend, and that is the Braves sweep over the Diamondbacks. A couple of really exciting comeback wins in the first two games of that series. Chris Sale looking really good on Sunday. So we'll discuss all that on today's podcast. And then it is Monday, so we'll get into our minor league segment as well. We had everybody playing over the weekend, but short sample size for a lot of the minor league affiliates. But I'll go through some of the highlights early on down at the farm. Before we do that, though, I want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Let's start with the bad news from the weekend, and that is the Spencer Strider news. The UCL strain came out of the game on Friday, mentioning some discomfort in his elbow, and it was what we thought it could be, and a strain on the UCL. Now, we are still waiting on a second MRI, kind of holding out as long as I could Monday morning before recording this, and I'll check kind of throughout while I'm recording here to see if we do get any kind of update. But we are still waiting on that second MRI. But all the talk from, Brian Snitker and, guys who were there sounds like it's the worst. It sounds like he's going to need Tommy John surgery, a second Tommy John surgery. He had one while he was in college at Clemson before he was drafted. If he does have to go under the knife and have a second Tommy John, we're talking about him being out all of this year and probably at least half of next year as well. So it's going to be a big loss for the Atlanta Braves. You hate it for Spencer Strider, obviously, who's worked very hard to get to this point. You hate it as a Braves fan because he's a big part of your plan. And you hate it for the fan base, or for the baseball fans in general, because Spencer Strider is one of the most exciting pitchers to watch, if not the most exciting pitcher to watch. He's the NL Cy Young favorite coming into this year. And it just really, really hurts for baseball in general. We're seeing a lot of these injuries, and I want to talk about that more in a second. But sticking, on the Spencer Strider point, I guess there is, if you're looking for some optimism, they've tried more kind of just preventative measures with pitchers that have UCL strains now that doesn't require surgery. He's still going to miss significant amount of time no matter what. So if you're still holding out hope that maybe he doesn't miss the entire year, we are seeing more pitchers kind of go that route. It all depends on how bad, the strain, the possible tear is to the UCL, if that's even an option. But that's kind of what we're waiting for with this second MRI. But again, everything's pointing to him likely needing another Tommy John, which means he's going to be out a year and a half for the Atlanta Braves, which would be a big loss for the roster this year. The Braves are one of the few teams out there who could lose the Cy Young favorite going into a year, and it really doesn't change their goals. I mean, Spencer Strider, again, perhaps the best, most dominant pitcher in the game, and the Braves lose him, and you still feel really good about this team's chances of winning a World Series. That just speaks to how deep the rotation is. It certainly makes things a lot more difficult. I mean, a lot of people talk about Spencer Strider, at least Phillies fans do talk about Spencer Strider not being able to beat them in the postseason. Like, it wasn't his fault last year. He pitched well enough to win both of those games he started last postseason. I want him as my postseason ace just because of the dominant stuff that he has. So it does make things a lot more difficult for the Braves in 2024 to reach those goals, but not insurmountable. What this does, though, is it puts a lot more stress on Fried, who hasn't looked particularly great in his first two starts, and it puts a lot of stress on a 35-year-old Chris Sale and a 40-year-old Charlie Morton. You really cannot afford to lose one of those guys now. And Fried, obviously coming off a year that he had a lot of injuries. Chris Sale's coming off several years where he's had many injuries, although the last couple of years it's been more, not really arm-related stuff, some kind of freak injuries. And then Charlie Morton, he's 40 years old. I mean, you got to think Father Time's going to catch up with him eventually, although he looked good his first time out. So you still feel confident with those guys when they're healthy and pitching like they're capable of. But if Spencer Strider is now lost for the rest of the season, you need those guys to, first of all, stay healthy and pitch to the best of their ability to really help this Braves rotation. But we saw them win 104 games last year with a ton of injuries in the rotation without Max Fried, without Kyle Wright for the majority of the year. And a lot of that's due to this great offense, one of the best offenses in the history of the game. And we saw that over the weekend where the pitchers weren't good in the first two outings and the offense was able to bail them out. And you saw that a lot last year as well. This offense is able to overcome a lot. I think where the conversation goes with the Braves is, what does the future look like? You could be going into 2025 with Chris Sale as your ace. I mean, if things were to hold as they are right now, Max Fried leaves, Charlie Morton decides to hang it up, Chris Sale is your number one pitcher going into 2025 until you hopefully get Spencer Strider back at some point. Does this change anything with Max Fried in their conversations there to potentially bring him back? I still am under the belief if they don't want to go over that third luxury tax, and if that looks like the case right now, you can't do anything with Fried during the season. You'd have to wait till after the season is over. But I got to think that maybe this intensifies those conversations a little bit. Are the Braves and Max Fried willing to do more of a shorter-term high AAV deal like Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery have had to do? Would you be okay giving Max Fried $30 million for 3 years or something like that? Maybe giving him an opt-out or two. I mean, just with the way the market is right now, that may be the best-case scenario for Max Fried. Again, after what we just saw with Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery. Now, maybe the TV contracts get settled at the end of this year and teams feel a little bit more comfortable spending. But again, I think if you're the Braves, that's something you have to kind of consider. I said this going into the season, and it doesn't change anything with this. But now they have to know going into the offseason if A.J. Smith-Shawver and or Hurston Waldrop can be part of this rotation for next year. Again, Chris Sale is your only legitimate pitcher going into next season in the rotation. Maybe you have Bryce Elder, maybe you have Ian Anderson, maybe you have Huascar Ynoa. Those are all question marks right now. I think this year you really got to figure out what you have in A.J. Smith-Shawver and Hurston Waldrop. I do think Bryce Elder gets the first look. It might take a turn through the rotation just because he pitched on Saturday, so he wouldn't be able, to fill in this Wednesday. But I do think Bryce Elder is going to get the first look in the rotation, at first extended look. I know they already called up Alan Winans. he's there to kind of eat innings if you need to. I want to go back to the extension talk though with Max Fried, because I have so many people ask me why don't they go out and sign a pitcher long term? Why don't they go ahead and extend Max Fried? This is why. I mean, because pitchers, especially in today's game right now, are so risky. A guy like this gets injured and they're out for a year and a half. It's not like a hitter who, say Orlando Arcia had a fracture in his hand last year. He was out for a month and a half. I mean, hitters can come back a lot more quickly from injuries, but if a pitcher needs Tommy John or something happens to their shoulder, in the case of Kyle Wright, they're out for a year and a half, and it's just a devastating loss, and it's money that you're just having to eat. I'm sure that, there's insurance on those things, but that's why extending starting pitchers, going out and signing free agent starters, it's so risky, and why I think you're going to see less and less teams be willing to hand out those long-term deals to starters. So I know we've hashed that out before, but thought it was an appropriate time to bring it back up. Next, I want to get into the conversation of what's going on with all the pitcher injuries. Everybody has their hypotheses, their theories about that. I'll discuss more on that here next. Spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks has something for every sports fan, from baseball, basketball, to League of Legends, and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, and PrizePicks is really that simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. And again, the Major League Baseball season's underway, so they have fun options there every day. And again, one more time, it is that simple. You pick 2 to 6 players or groups of players and decide if you think they'll get more or less on certain stats like basketball, points, blocks, or assists, baseball, strikeouts, RBI, all of that. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on TV all day and you constantly have to turn it down because of all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, I got a lot to get to on the podcast, so I'm going to run through this conversation here, but I think it's one worth having with the news of Spencer Strider, Shane Beamer, Yuri Perez, just so many pitcher injuries we're seeing in the game right now. And a lot of people have questions for why is this happening? And everybody has their own opinion, so I want to put mine out there. And I've talked about it on here before. MLB Players Association, they're all over Major League Baseball for not doing more research on the effects of the pitch clock that could be having on starting pitchers. Personally, I don't believe that's as much of a factor. I think it's part of it. My running theory for a while now, and I think this is probably the leading theory out there, and I'm not a medical person at all, but I believe we pushed arms to the point that, quite honestly, God didn't intend for it to work this way. To throw consistently 96, 97, 98 miles per hour, 40, 50 times every 5 days, to put so much spin and torque on your arm, on the baseball. Arms just weren't meant to do that. And I say it all the time. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when a pitcher's arm is going to break down. They just weren't meant to do this. They weren't meant to throw high velocity with a lot of spin and all the torque that you're using to get that spin on your arm. The arm just wasn't intended to do that. I don't think it's any more difficult to understand than that. The arm just wasn't built to work that way. And that's just where we are. And what are you going to do? You're not going to take a step backwards. If a pitcher wants to get to the big leagues, they got to throw harder. They got to spin the baseball. That's what you have to do because that's what's most effective. And that's how you get strikeouts. That's how you get swings and misses. And I get it. But at some point, the arm is going to break down. You're going to have to miss significant time because of an arm injury. And that's just the nature of the game right now. We're not going to go back to the days of a Greg Maddux or a Tom Glavine where you just pitch and you know how to pitch and you know how to locate with lower velocity. It's just you're not going to go back to those days. It just doesn't happen because when you have a pitcher who can throw 97, 98, they can spin a breaking ball, that's more effective and that's what gets results. And so young pitchers that want to make it to the big leagues, that's what they have to do. And sure, maybe there's more that goes into it. Maybe the pitch clock has sped pitchers up to where they're doing that more quickly, and that's putting more stress on the arm. Again, I don't think we have enough data to necessarily confirm that yet. But for me, I just think it's to the point that we've pushed arms to. We pushed them to and past their limit to where it's just a place that God didn't intend for the arm to be used that way. So that's kind of my feelings, my opinion on it. Everybody has theirs. I think we're going to continue to see pitcher injuries happen like this. And the final point I wanted to make on this, and where I really wanted to go, is that's why I think it's so smart by the Braves to continually, every draft season. I always have people tell me or ask me, when are the Braves going to take a position player early? This is why they're not going to, because you just have to continually roll out these arms and have several coming on the way and ready to contribute, because you just never know when that injury is going to happen. And all of a sudden you have a devastating loss in your rotation and you need guys to step up. This is why it's so important to go into every year with 10, 12 arms that you really feel like are capable of giving you innings if needed, because this is just where the game is at today. All right, spent a lot of time there. I do want to get into the weekend series because we had a lot going on. Me and Grant McCauley talked a lot about these on Sunday night's postcast. You want to go give it a listen, but I'll run through it really quickly. On Friday and Saturday, you had comebacks. Friday, they were down 5-2. Was a bit of a frustrating game. The Diamondbacks were getting a lot of soft hits while the Braves were having a lot of hard outs. That started to change in the 8th inning where Arcia and Acuna both had doubles on balls hit 98 miles per hour. And then in the 9th inning, we got a little bit of that luck as Jared Kelenic blooped in a double to tie the game, went to extra innings. Ozzie moved the ghost runner over, and then Travis d'Arnaud drove him in for the walk-off win. Exciting home opener for the Atlanta Braves, another walk-off home opener for the Atlanta Braves. I want to say that's their 3rd time in the last 7 years. I think it's what they said on the broadcast. On Saturday, I was at this game. That first inning was so brutal. After that top of the first inning was over, my kid was already asking to go get more snacks and go to the bathroom. And I asked him, can I just please let me watch Ronald Acuna Jr. bat one time? But Fried gave up 6 runs in the first inning. The way I kind of break down this Fried start, he was throwing more strikes in this one, which is good, but he was throwing too many good strikes early on to Ketel Marte, threw a fastball down the middle. Christian Walker, he hung a curveball over the middle of the plate. After that, it really was just kind of some bad luck. He gave up some soft hits, an infield single that was just hit perfectly placed where Ozzie caught it, but just had nowhere to go. Another one that kind of dropped in on a weak hit. I really thought he started to throw the ball a lot better. He struck out the side in the 2nd inning. So hopefully Max Fried's kind of got that out of his way, and we're going to see him pitch like Max Fried going forward. But the Braves offense bailed him out. You had Marcell Ozuna hit a big 3-run homer in the 5th inning. My kid said that and the tool race were his 2 favorite parts of the game. That got the Braves back in it. They pushed across a couple of more later. And then Riley, Olsen, and Ozuna and Michael Harris had 4 straight singles in the 7th inning, made it 8-7 game. And then another Kelenic double getting on base and Acuna single to start the 8th inning, tied it up. And then Ozzie did another good job, once again, moving the runner over to third. That set up Riley for the go-ahead hit and ultimately the win. I want to touch on the bullpen, though. Or first, let me touch on Chris Sale on his outing Sunday. 5 1/3, 4 hits, no walks, 2 earned, 6 strikeouts, 96 pitches, 9 whiffs, and 8 called strikes on that slider, 27 foul balls. Really pushed up his pitch count, didn't allow him to go too deep in the game. We talked about this on the postcast. Again, go give that a listen on Locked On Sports Atlanta or in your Locked On Braves podcast feed. But I was really impressed with this Diamondbacks lineup. I thought they were good coming in. I talked about that on the podcast with with Millard. I thought this Diamondbacks offense was really, really good. They showed me that in this series. They're a really frustrating lineup to pitch to. They do a great job with 2 strikes, just kind of shortening up, putting the ball in play, fouling off a ton of pitches as they did to Chris Sale. But overall, he pitched through all that, looked really, really good once again. And that's huge, obviously, for the Braves rotation right now with Strider and his injury situation, Fried kind of struggling out of the gate. Chris Sale's been really good. But what's helped this team more than anything, and the group that was the MVP of the weekend, was this Braves bullpen. 14 1/3 scoreless innings, 5 hits and 5 walks allowed in those 14 1/3 innings. You hate to have to use them this much as they have. You did have the 2 off days, which helped give them some rest to set them up for the series where they were really, really needed. But they've been huge to begin the year. Dylan Lee hasn't given up a run in 6 innings. Matzik hasn't either in 3 1/3 innings. Those 2 lefties have been really good for the Braves. I've said it before, I didn't know what to expect with them coming into the year. Bummer's the only reliever who's allowed more than 1 earned run so far. And then, of course, Jesse Chavez. He's only allowed 1 earned run on 2 hits and 1 walk over 5 innings. He's back in a Braves uniform and pitching like an elite reliever out there. But that bullpen, the work that they did this weekend on Friday night, after giving up not letting the Diamondbacks pull away. And then on Saturday, giving up 6 runs in the first inning, Max Fried was able to work into the 5th. Should have gotten out of that 5th inning with a double play, by the way. Forgot to mention. But then the bullpen comes in and just continues to put up zeros, gives this offense a chance to get back in the game. And that's really part of it. You hope your starters are going to have better outings, and I think they will. But it's just good to know when they don't, you can bring in this bullpen, and they're going to give this offense a chance to come back. And the more opportunities you give this offense, as we saw, they're eventually going to come through with a big hit. All right, next, I want to move into our Minors Monday segment. You had the rest of the Braves farm system get underway this past weekend, had some good pitching performances, not so much on the offensive side of things, but we'll talk about all of that here next. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down as they get closer to first pitch. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices viewed from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I went to the game on Saturday. I used Game Time to buy my tickets as well. Super simple process. And they're right. The prices do go down as you get closer to the first pitch there, which is very nice. As I mentioned, they have the view from your seats. You know exactly what it looks like. You also have the all-in price up front. So you know exactly what you're paying before you get to the checkout screen, to the features that I just really love about the Game Time app. And you can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Game Time has deals right up to the start of the event. Save up to 60% off buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And also, right now, for a limited time, all users get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Game Time app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Terms apply again. Create an account. Redeem code LOCKED ON for $20 off or First Pitch for $20 off between March 25th to April 14th for purchases of $150 or more. That's last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, it is Monday, so I want to get into the minors here for a little bit. Gwinnett's been playing for about a week and a half now. JP Martinez off to a really hot start, batting .321, a couple of homers, a 1049 OPS, and 3 stolen bases. Eli White, he's still doing really good, .345 average, 4 doubles, 7 stolen bases, and a .940 OPS. Leury Garcia, .375 with 5 walks to 3 strikeouts and an .886 OPS. So they're getting done on the offensive side for Gwinnett. I'm going to touch on a lot of pitchers here at Gwinnett just because these are the next guys up if needed. Dylan Dodd has a 1.54 ERA in 11 2/3 innings, which is outstanding, but a 1.63 whip with 7 walks and to 12 strikeouts. So ERA looks good, hasn't given up a ton of runs, but he's still allowing a lot of base runners. Bryce Elder, a 2.61 ERA, a 1.06 whip, and 10 1/3 innings, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts. Darius Vines, 3.75 ERA, a 0.83 whip, really good, and 12 innings with just 7 hits and 3 walks allowed and 11 strikeouts. Alan Winans, who the Braves did call up, 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, and his 1 start. And then on the reliever side of things, Daysbel Hernandez, 2 2/3 innings, no hits, has walked a couple and 4 strikeouts. Ken Giles, 3 scoreless innings with just 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. Huascar Ynoa made his first appearance back, 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 2 strikeouts. And AJ Smith-Shawver made his first start. He was only planning to go 2 innings anyway, but he didn't make it out of the first inning. 2/3 of an innings, 2 hit, 3 walks, 3 earned, and 1 strikeout. Going down to Mississippi, and Mississippi, Rome, and Augusta all just played 3 games over the weekend. But for Mississippi, Nacho Alvarez out to a good start. He's 5 for 12, a double, 2 walks to 1 strikeout, and a couple of stolen bases. Drake Baldwin, 5 for 14. Hurston Waldrop, who, yes, is back down at Double-A just because of all the pitchers that need to start at Triple-A. 2 2/3 innings, 11 hits allowed. Just 1 walk. When Waldrop's bad, I can see him walking 5 guys, but still not giving up a ton of hits. So to see him give up 11 hits is a little concerning. 7 earned runs. He did have 4 strikeouts, but 11 hits from Hurston Waldrop. That one really shocked me. Hayden Harris, another bullpen arm to watch there. He pitched a scoreless inning at Mississippi. At Rome, my guy Kevin Kilpatrick, 5 for 11 start to the year with 3 stolen bases. Sabine Ceballos, another guy I like, 3 for 11 with a double and a stolen base. Ambioris Taveras, a guy who I loved offensively. I need to see him make some adjustments at the plate. Not a great start. 2 for 12, no walks to 5 strikeouts. Now, the pitching at Rome was outstanding over the weekend. You had Owen Murphy, 6 2/3, 2 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 8 strikeouts. I got to believe he and both Spencer Schwellenbach, and Schwellenbach had 6 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 3 Ks over the weekend. I got to think they're going to move up to Mississippi pretty quickly. Drew Hackenberg, he can move pretty quickly too as a college arm, but he pitched 6 innings, only allowed 3 hits, no walks, 1 earned, and 6 strikeouts. So all 3 of those guys had sparkling debuts of 2024. And then Roldy Munoz, a reliever there that I have my eye on, he pitched an inning, did give up a hit and a walk and no earn, but 1 strikeout there for Munoz. And then finally down at Augusta, Jace Grady, 2 for 7 with a double. Isaiah Drake, 0 for 9 with 7 strikeouts. He's very similar to Taveras, where the plate discipline, the strikeouts are something you got to watch with them. It was a real struggle for Isaiah Drake in a small sample size after getting drafted last year. Big sample size for Taveras all of last season that he struggled with it. But those are 2 guys that I think have a lot of potential. Kevin Kilpatrick as well, a lot of potential, but really just watching their plate discipline to see if it improves. We got to see Adam Mayer pitch for the first time for the Braves. 4 innings, 5 hits, a walk, a hit batter, but just 2 earned and 5 strikeouts. And then Garrett Bauman, who the Braves drafted last year, big arm there, big tall guy. 4 innings, just 2 hits, walk 2, 3 strikeouts. And then Adam Shoemaker in relief, 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 6 strikeouts. So those are some of your notables. I'll usually do more on the minor league segment on Mondays, but we just had so much to talk about with the Spencer Strider news. And again, it's very early on in the minor league season. On Monday is the anniversary of 7-15. Big home run by Hank Aaron. Obviously, there'll be a lot of celebration for that on a Monday's game. I got a picture behind my wall, which I tweeted out a photo of one of my favorite pictures of Hank Aaron, that 7-15 home run. So looking forward to that celebration on Monday night, where the Braves begin a 4-game series against the New York Mets. The Mets did win a series at Cincinnati over the weekend. They pitched really well in a hitter-friendly ballpark, giving up just 3 runs in their 2 wins. Pitching matchups as of now are Julio Teheran, old friend, against Charlie Morton on Monday. Adrian Hauser versus Ronaldo Lopez on Tuesday. Jose Quintana versus to be determined. And then Luis Severino versus Max Fried. Their starters have actually been pretty good right now as they got some reclamation projects there. We're going to miss Sean Manaea, who's been really good for them to begin the year. He pitched a great game on Sunday. Severino, Quintana, Hauser, Teheran, all veterans. They're pitchers, except for Severino. You know, he's one guy that can get the velocity up there. So we'll see how the Braves fare there. And you want to get some leads on them because Edwin Diaz is back, and he looks like Edwin Diaz. So you want to get a lead before that really 8th and 9th inning. They could bring him in the 8th, certainly, to shut things down. So you want to make sure to get that lead early. Alonso and Lindor are off to slow starts. They'll get it going at some point, but hopefully not in this series. And hopefully this is a series that the Braves can take against their division rivals early on, continue the good vibes from the series sweep over the weekend. I want to let you know Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV app and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, again, tomorrow we'll be back talking about Monday's game. It'll also be our Taco Tuesday, where we will discuss the biggest stories in Braves country. We'll do that on Tuesday. Hopefully have somebody lined up to join the podcast on Wednesday. Mailbag coming on Friday. Around the League Thursday happening in Thursday's episode. So a lot coming your way. As always, we are in full swing here in the baseball season on the Locked On Braves podcast. This will be the end of this episode, though. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you are new, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.